And we're live. I see the little green button that says we're live. Hey guys,
Awesome.
hey everybody. Yeah, we're just waiting for more people to come in and join us. Phil, how are you doing?
I'm doing really good and excited to be here today.
Yeah, awesome. Me too. Super, super excited. We're going to be talking about lots of good stuff. I really want to welcome all of our viewers right now who are joining us, whether you're watching us in the replay later on or live. Super, super excited. We have a special guest with us, and he's going to share his story and his wisdom, his philosophies, right, with all of us today. Typically around like how he came to make more money and work fewer hours doing what he's truly passionate about. That is something that, we all want to create a lifestyle of freedom and just live a happy and fulfilling life, essentially. So Phil, thanks for giving your time to be here.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited to be here. And I have to remember that with YouTube Live, I'm not on the screen when I'm not talking. So I'm like waving over here and doing all these things, but people can't see me. But exactly, I love this topic of just working fewer hours or in a smarter way, or just being able to spend more time doing what I love. And I'm happy to talk about how I'm doing that today.
Awesome. Yeah, you got to stay true to yourself, right? And what you want and your desires, and that comes in creating the life that you want. I think there are just too many people who are led to believe that you can't do what you love and make money at the same time, especially a lot of artists and creative entrepreneurs. And consequently, they're stuck working on things that they hate, being unhappy and unfulfilled.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I know a lot of people, friends that kind of gave up being creative, got other jobs. And it's hard though. It's hard to like just say, oh, well, anybody can make a lot of money doing what they
Yeah.
love, because I know how hard it is. And sometimes it takes a little bit of luck. But I think something we talked about before going live, and we'll talk about more, is just this idea of being consistent and persistent with whatever you want, even if it's just in the background, even if you're just doing projects for fun, whatever it is that you love, video production, which is my passion, or sewing or drawing or music or whatever, just kind of doing things consistently in the background outside of your job. Because if you're consistent with it, I think it will eventually offer a way to make money. You'll figure it out.
Yeah, I truly believe that, when you're working on something that you're passionate about, you're naturally emitting a positive energy about you, and that can really lead to a lot of other opportunities, and the money just kind of follows. But having said that, like you said, there are certain things that, you gotta be doing what you love, but still be of service to the market, like still be producing something that is helpful to other people, not necessarily in just a practical sense, but maybe emotionally too, right?
Mm-hmm. And I think that's something with YouTube. A lot of people want to start a YouTube channel, and I found so much success in the whole tutorials. That's what my YouTube channel is all about. It's tutorials, and it's helping
Yeah.
people out. And yes, you can create a successful channel based off of entertaining videos, funny comedy, whatever, music, but it has to like be helping that emotional side if you're going that route. Otherwise, it just seems like if you're truly helping people by teaching others, that's almost what YouTube is all about. It's like teaching other people how to do things, not just in like tutorials, but unboxing videos
Yeah.
and DIY videos. That's what it's all about. So you can build a channel successfully just based off of entertainment, but it's got to be like about helping other people, or at least, I don't know. It's kind of, I have a class where I teach people how to grow their YouTube channel. And so many people come and they post a couple videos following our instructions and they're expecting a huge following.
Mhm.
But I tell them, like, you have to be consistent at it for months or even years. That's, at least for me, it's, I've never really had viral success myself with anything,
Yeah.
so it's, I don't know, we're going all over the place here.
I know. So I know, and I want to jump in and say so many things too. Like I can really relate to that. But let's put a cap on that there for now. And since it's just past the hour here, I know there's some viewers here joining us. I just wanted to pause here, say hey to everybody, and welcome to this live video call with Phil Ebiner and myself. My name is Orit, and super, super excited, as I've said many times before, to be on this live call here. I'm just going to introduce Phil for you guys, for those of you who don't know. Phil is a cinematographer, an editor, and a motion graphics artist who's a perfect example of a creative success story. I mean, he's founder of Video School Online, which we're going to talk more about later. And Video School Online has a community of over 400,000 plus students now. And he not only shares stories with the world through documentaries and other forms of media and his videos and that sort of thing, but he also shares knowledge with other creatives, right? Like we were just talking about, teaching all kinds of things from video production to photography to design and online marketing. So since leaving the 9-to-5 world to make his own path in 2015, he's made more money, worked fewer hours, and only works on the things he loves each day, which is really an inspiration to a lot of us. So Phil, can you take us back to the early days on how you got started? And also, did you always know this is what you wanted to do?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for that introduction. I love it. Well, we can go back quite a ways to how I got interested in video production. And I feel like everything, when I look back, it's, and like everyone can probably do this, while you're going through your life journey, you don't really see necessarily what the next steps are or the next big changes are. But now looking back, I can see how things connect. And I can remember from the very beginning with my Star Wars action figures, getting my parents' old camera out and making little home movies with that. And then I remember getting my first digital photo camera that could take 15-second video clips and making full montages out of that with like 15-second clips. And the quality of that was like so bad, but it was such a cool experience to be able to capture video digitally. I mean, it was brand new back in the 90s. And then in high school, I was so passionate about baseball that my friend and I started a talk show about baseball, and it was broadcast on our local cable channel. And this was before YouTube, before any sort of online video. And now I think, man, if YouTube was new back then and we were doing the same thing, we would have done it on YouTube, and we probably would be on like ESPN right now, just because we were there consistent doing it at the start, because we ended up doing it every week for a few years. We had like 150 episodes or something.
Cool.
And so that I can just see like the path of, I got so into like the video production side of that I went to film school. I went to Loyola Marymount University in LA, California, and it was a great experience. And that's where I fell in love with documentary making. And then after school, it was like time to get a job. And so like everyone who graduates from school, and especially everyone who graduates school with debt, it's like, okay, I need a job, any job, whatever I can get. And I was actually pretty lucky to get a couple jobs in sequence that were really cool. Like the first job I had was at this company called Participant Media. And you've probably seen some of the films that they produced, like the Help, Inconvenient Truth, big documentaries. And I was doing their web videos. I was doing a lot of editing and shooting for them. But it was like not making that much money, and I had all this debt, and I was commuting like a few hours every day because I had to move home with my parents because I just couldn't afford to live on my own. And I was just like, so like, just didn't know where life was going. And so I ended up, after that job finished, I was like, okay, I want to try freelancing. And so I bounced around freelancing, doing all these different things. And then I stumbled onto this other job at this college where I was making videos for a college. And that's how I found out about online education. And that's when I started creating my own online courses. But just this journey, just I never would have known about Udemy if I wasn't at this job at this college researching online education. And the job itself was fine, but it just at all of those jobs that I had, all those full-time jobs working for someone else, I would initially be excited about it, but after like 3 to 6 months, I would start to feel the itch to like want something else.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard because when you're out of school, when you're in debt, whether it's student loans or credit card debt, or you have a mortgage and you have a family, it's hard to like scratch that itch if you have no mental capacity or no time to do something else other than just go to your full-time job and work, and you can't like get out of that routine. And I mean, I was lucky that I had some freedom in, I mean, I had a girlfriend who's my wife at the time now, but um, in the evenings, I was free to do whatever I wanted, basically. So I didn't have any kids or much responsibility. So I was lucky in that sense. And that's really where I invested a lot of time into growing this next sort of life adventure of online courses.
Oh, very cool. Well, yeah. So you've mentioned a lot of great points. So going back to that change point that you were talking about, like you were going to all of these different or trying out these different jobs and freelancing gigs and stuff. Can you maybe like tell us a little bit more about what was going through your mind, like when you were realizing that this isn't really what you wanted? What was
Mm,
going through your mind, and how did you come to that point of change?
yeah. It's so hard. I mean, I remember like just going to work every day, and I was I was a good worker and I was a bad worker. And if any of my ex-bosses watch this interview, they know that I did work. I finished my work, and that's one of my, like, I guess like one of the things that I'm really good at is I'm very efficient at things I do. So
Mhm.
I would get my work done and I would do a good job, but I never really asked for more work. I didn't like try to like get a promotion or anything. I just went to my job, I did my work, but that also allowed me some free time. So I would be at work, like watching webinars. I'd be watching YouTube videos. I would be listening to the Smart Passive Income Show, reading blog articles. And then eventually when I started my website, I would be like working on my website and uploading content and doing all kinds of other things. But I can clearly remember at all of my jobs just feeling like, well, I don't really consider being here for the rest of my life. And
Mhm.
I think it was like at that point, just learning about passive income. And then the first time I created a course and sold a course, when I realized that whole idea of trading hours for dollars is not something I want to do. And you get addicted to creating different streams of passive income. But even before that, like I was doing wedding videography on the side, and that was starting to be successful. And it was just more fun for me to be working on something on my own. And it's something that I didn't realize then, but I've certainly realized now, again, looking back on it, that to make, and not that everything's about making money, because I mean, I wish everyone could make a lot of money, but, and that shouldn't be the one goal for everyone's life, but it does, financial freedom gives you so many more opportunities, and that's just a fact. And making a lot of money though, it's impossible unless you either have like some really crazy degree like medical or law or something in a high paying job, or if you start your own business. I don't know many other ways to make a lot of money other than, at just a typical job when you're starting out. Maybe if you stay at a job for 20 or 30 years and later on in your
Mhm.
career, but as 20-year-olds or 25, 30 years olds, there's not that many other ways to make a lot of money. And so yeah, I don't know, that was kind of
Yeah,
that
I
changing point.
I no, I agree. I agree. And I kind of went through a similar discovery too. like years ago, I was going to school to become a doctor. To, I was taking all of these medicine, science, psychology, all these courses to fulfill the prerequisites for getting into med school. And just a year after I graduated, I realized that, I mean, school was all I knew at that point. And having that end, and then you're like left. So the year after you graduated, it's like, okay, well, now what? That year was such a door opener for me because I got to really know what I truly wanted. I had space to think really more about what I wanted, and it wasn't a medical career at all. I've always been passionate about music and the arts and that sort of thing, and that's what really started my thought process on that path. And it's really funny because I hear it in your story too, how once your thoughts are on that wavelength or whatever you want to call it, you start to see, you're open to seeing these opportunities like, yeah, that I'm connecting with that. Like, this is
Mm-hmm.
what's going to help me, write my first song or release
Mm-hmm.
my first album or create my first video. Or so that's really cool that you had a
And
similar experience.
sometimes it's like just about allowing yourself or getting to a point where you have some freedom to work on your own projects. And that's kind of where I'm at right now, which is like this beautiful place where documentary film is my passion. But up until last year, which we're talking about like 2016,
Mm-hmm.
between 2012 and 2016, I hadn't really worked on any projects of my own. It was all for other people, all corporate clients. And so my goal basically with life and where I'm at least right now, is to make enough money doing my own business, but also give me some time and freedom to work on my own projects, doing documentary film. Because documentary film, there's a very minuscule amount of people who can make a full-time living in documentary film. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's usually just a passion project for people anyways. So that's kind of, another thing is like just figuring out a way to, build income or time or whatever freedom you need to spend on your own projects.
And I know a lot of entrepreneurs go through this too. Having the barrier of time, like not being able to work on what they want to work, especially if they are working a 9 to 5 job to make the money. Or if they are starting out building a business. What sort of advice would you say to someone who's really struggling with finding time, or who says, I don't have time to work on creating what I want?
Well, I'll say that unless you're like have a family, which I don't have a family yet, but I know that for people who have kids, you don't really have that much time, and so that's going to be hard. But even still, for most of those people, but most people like coming out of college, figuring out their career, you can find time. I mean, the amount of Netflix we all watch, the amount of YouTube videos we all watch, which this is great. I'm glad people are watching this, but the amount of time that we actually spend searching for inspiration, or I like to call it inspiration chasing, that could be spent creating your own stuff, whatever that may be. And so one thing is just try to cut back on some of these distractions to work on your own things, but also just schedule it in. It's kind of like investing in a way. And this is something I've heard and I recommend is like, if you're investing it in a 401k at work or whatever it is, just put 10% of your money into that, because by the time it's gone, you're not going to even think about it anymore. And you're going to adjust to it. You're going to adjust your lifestyle to it. And it's the same with your time. If you can dedicate an hour every Wednesday or 2 hours every Saturday and just say that this is the time you're going to work on this, you'll figure out how to get everything else done.
Hmm. Yeah, I've talked about this in some of my other videos, how you don't time is really it's an asset, right? It's a resource.
Mm-hmm.
It's a unrenewable resource. You can't get back the time that you spend, but it's the same resource that every single one of us has. We only all have a set amount of time in our lives, but it's how we choose to allocate it to certain things and how to spend it, that will really determine the course of what happens, right?
Right. And I think that's something I'm really learning and kind of figuring out right now is like not only how do I spend my own time, but well, yeah, exactly. Like how do I spend my own time and what things can I do? Can I like outsource to other people? Or even like as simple as what was it? Oh, okay. So this is like a prime example of like where I have learned from my parents' mistakes. Like we had to stain our entire fence. We installed an entire wood fence, and my dad would have gotten the paintbrush out and started painting everything himself, and it would have taken months to finish. But
Hmm.
I saw that if I invested $100 in like a sprayer, we could get it done in a weekend. And so sometimes it's like thinking about like little things like that that I'm like, well, even if it costs money to me now, it's saving so much time. Or like I used to be very against getting car washes, like paying for a car wash. I would do this like I would do it myself. And I
Yeah.
still like struggle with that. I'm like, well, I could just do it myself. But even for like the 30 minutes that it would cost, take me to do it, if I can pay someone 10 or 15 bucks to do it for me, it's saving so much time. I could be working on other things. And eventually, like when I think about having kids and stuff like that, those kinds of just like things to pay for, it saves you so much time other ways. And either to spend with your kids, spend with your family, spend with your loved one, or to be working on like a business or something. And that's what I mean about like outsourcing. Like right now, I
Hmm.
big shout out to Dennis Smith, who's watching in the audience. I've hired him to help run my social media group. And I've also hired people to help answer questions in some of my courses so that I can focus my energy elsewhere to grow my business even more.
Yeah, I think that that's something that a lot of creative entrepreneurs and artists struggle with, right? Is just not, it's very difficult to let go. And I struggle with this myself. It's like, in the back of your mind, you have this ego voice saying, "Oh, no one can do it better than I can." But it's like, well, it's actually going to help you grow, right? Like you said, if you invest that time into finding someone who can really help, or the money, it frees up your time to work on what's most important, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know when you're starting out, it's hard because you might not even have the money to invest or to pay someone to do it. So
Hmm.
it's gotta be baby steps, but it's something where at least at my this point in my business, it's like the next level. And unless I do it, I'm gonna sort of maintain myself, which is great, which is amazing. And I'm making more money than I could ever have done with another job, at least at this point in my life. But to take it to the next level, I do have to let go, like you said, and realize that people can do a better job than me, or at least as good of a job as me, and
Hmm.
be happy with that. Or even if they do less, like not as good of a job as me, maybe it doesn't matter. Like maybe
To
I
be
think I
okay with
need,
that.
yeah, like maybe I think it needs to be this level of quality or this whatever level, but in the end, it doesn't really need to be that.
Yeah, yeah. So let's go back to talking about how you managed to build this community of over 400,000 plus students. What was really the turning point, because you were talking about how you were struggling with like finding or working different jobs and realizing you're trading your time for money. This isn't something that you wanted. What was the turning point there?
Yeah, well, I don't know if there was like a single turning point, but it was like initially after that first class, which I created on video editing, and I sold
Hmm.
it uh, in October 2012. That was when I launched it. It was just like seeing that that worked. And it was sort of like the first thing that I created myself and the first business that clicked easily for me. Just from that, I was like, okay, well, if I can make this amount of money with this one course, let me just create another course. And so I kept seeing my income increase, and this was all on Udemy at the time. But I think on in my seventh month or eighth month, I made over $1,000 on Udemy, and so from it was just kind of this like consistent growth, and it was just like, well, if I create more courses, then it's going to increase, and it can work different for different people. For some people, it might be, well, if I can market better, I can make more money. But for me, I just had this idea, well, if I create more courses, I'm not good at marketing, and at least I
Mhm.
was not good at the time, and I don't think I'm a great marketer, but I just thought that creating more content was the way to go. And so things just continued to grow and grow and grow. And I remember passing 10,000 students on Udemy. I remember seeing other instructors who had 100,000 students and thinking, oh, I'm never going to get there. And it was just consistently creating courses and then expanding to other platforms and then creating my own platform. And I pretty much early on realized that I needed a home base. And that's why I created Video School Online, which is the website, but also my YouTube channel and my brand. And that's gone through all sorts of iterations. But throughout it all, I've been posting weekly videos or more than weekly videos. I've been trying to post on social media frequently. And it's just been this like constant growth. And I was actually making more money from my online courses and just all of my online business because I was doing some affiliate. I was making some money with YouTube ads. I was making more money from all of that than my full-time job for a while until I actually left my full-time job in 2015. And it took me a while to leave my full-time job because I was just like nervous and scared and I didn't know if this was going to work or not.
Mhm.
And it kind of worked out perfectly because my wife and I were moving from Berkeley to Southern California. And so it was just this opportunity to leave my full-time job there, which I was working at University of California at Berkeley, and just say, okay, well, let's see how it goes for 6 months. And um, let's just go from there. And as soon as I spent, the full 40 hours a week working on my own business compared to at another job and trying to fit my own business in the evenings and on the weekends, I saw growth and I haven't looked back since. And it's just amazing to see where the business has gone. And I think more than ever, I'm getting more students like who are really enjoying the content that I put out. And I think that's because I can spend more time putting higher quality content out now than before. Because I think I went into a trap, and a lot of people get into the trap with online courses or YouTube videos or whatever, that it's just like, well, I just have to be consistent with it. So I'm just going to put out whatever.
Mhm.
But you also have to make sure that it's high quality too. So some of
Right.
my old courses are not that high quality, I would say. And I fell into that trap of just let's create more and more courses. But now I'm like, okay, I got to make sure everything's high quality.
Yeah, yeah. So it's in the beginning it was more quantity, but it's more about quality now, right?
Yeah, it's more about quality, but it's also consistency. So it's like this whole balance of making sure that you are putting out quantity, but yeah, it's got to be high quality too.
So what sort of things, so I heard consistency is a huge thing, but what other things would you attribute this growth to? Like, even if it's just one more thing or up to three things, what would really, like looking back on that whole thing that you were doing, what has really helped you grow this community?
Yeah, I think really figuring out what people liked. And so simply using my Google Analytics on my YouTube channel or the YouTube Analytics to see that, oh, my videos on personal finance are my most watched videos, like by far. And they're like, it's totally the 80-20 rule of
Mhm.
80% of my effort goes into, or 20% of my effort goes into the 80% of my returns from those videos. And so it's like, okay, well, let me just make more personal finance videos. And it's amazing. Like I I could have grown my channel a lot faster because I go in all these different areas of my channel. But if I just made it a personal finance channel, I think it could have grown really a lot faster, because that every time I put out like a personal finance video, it gets 5, 10, 20 times more views than my other ones. So simply just looking at my analytics, it's something that I wasn't doing in the beginning, but that helped. And then even with my Udemy courses and my online courses, I realized that it's just the bigger, full, complete courses, but also geared towards beginners that did better. And so I stopped focusing on the niche courses that were geared towards more advanced users. And I focused on trying to create more bigger but beginner courses in all of the topics that I know about anyways. And so that really kind of like leveled up the income, because I realized that those bigger courses, they just last longer on, they have a
Mhm.
longer lifespan on online and on Udemy especially. So um it's great to like create the small courses to help people advance in specific topics, but to grow my income, creating the bigger courses was more beneficial.
So really paying attention to feedback was a big
Hmm.
thing, right?
Yeah.
So like not just with the numbers that you were talking about, but also seeing with where your most of your students enrolled, and of course putting in or taking into account reviews and that sort of thing.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
as a like I think as a creative entrepreneur, it's kind of tough sometimes to take feedback on what you create, right? I mean, we're talking courses here too, but I mean, essentially, you are creating something. You're creating a piece of content that's being shared with other people, and it can be tough. So that's really great that you're listening to that. And I wanted to ask you too. Did you ever feel like a disconnect? While you're doing this, you're creating these courses and everything, but then you still had like you love creating documentaries and this artist
Mhm.
side. And did you ever feel that disconnect?
Well, I always think back on my college experience, and it was 99% was amazing, but there's definitely some professors that I remember, and probably everyone has these professors in creative fields anyways, who know how to teach, but they're showing me like documentaries that they made back in the 80s, or they're showing me these videos or their filmmaking techniques from 30, 40 years ago, and they're not creating anything now. And not that it's not a good thing to learn from like the past and learn the original techniques of filmmaking, but I always wanted my teachers to be more of doers and to be more in the industry and more up to date than some of them were. And so I always think about that with myself. I'm like, I don't want to get into this trap of just being a teacher and just like teaching the same techniques over and over again. And
Mhm.
sometimes I have felt like that. I feel like, well, okay, I can just keep recreating the same Adobe Premiere course for video editors over and over every time they come out with a new version. But I also want to challenge myself to work on my own projects too. And it's hard though, because it's like at this point it's I know that if I invest my time into my courses, it has a bigger monetary return on investment. So
Mhm.
I get approached by friends and people asking me to help with their projects, and it's like they're paying like so little compared to what I could make with an online course. So I sometimes I say no, which is good. It's a nice thing to be able to say no to projects, but at the same time, I wish that I could do, or I just need to dedicate more time to working on other projects with people. So I stay up to date and my skills also continue to grow. And so my goal is kind of to try to make like a documentary or a short documentary every year. And I haven't done one this year yet, so I'm still working on that, but we still got some time left.
Yeah, I think what you said was great, because you said, even though you might not be taking these jobs to create videos and this sort of thing, you're still working on your craft, right? You're still putting in the time to learn new skills and, always improving on that. And I think that's really important. So whether you're there, and I think like there are certain you can create kind of seasons for yourself in your work
Mm-hmm.
too, right? Like this season is going to be all about learning or writing, and then maybe next season will be about okay putting that into action, so that you can manage your time that way and focus all of your energies really on this one piece here.
Yeah, I love that idea. And I mean, it's something that I could do now with my business, but even like if it's just taking like a day a week or something and dedicating that to personal projects. And that's something I was doing more so last year, actually. Fridays were more like personal project time. mostly because I was working on a short documentary at the time. But just like, yeah, having that time dedicated to that is important. Okay, you're inspiring me. I'm gonna try to take Friday afternoon off and work on something on my own.
Yes. Awesome. Well, that's how, that really is how I managed to work both on my business as well as my music, right? I set a certain amount of time to just, focus on whether it's writing a song or even just looking up and learning the stories of other people that I aspire
Mhm.
to in the music side of things, and still moving my business forward. It's quite a balancing act. But if as long as you're fulfilled doing what you're doing and you're
Mhm.
not disliking it, that's the most important thing. And I know that you enjoy being both a creator and a teacher, right?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, I never was a teacher before these online classes, and I never thought I was going to be a teacher. And I don't think I would want to be like a traditional teacher. I know my friends always
Yeah.
joke like, okay, someday Video School Online is going to have a campus, and we're gonna, you're gonna be the principal, and we're gonna have like school on campus. But I don't foresee that. Who knows? Maybe that might happen. That guy was also telling me that Trump was gonna win like a year ago, and I didn't believe him. So who knows, that may be in the future, but because my teaching it also is like video creating, that's why I think I love it so much. And that's also why I honestly had a slight advantage over people, is because I could create videos, and that's what all these online courses are, video productions.
Yeah, you really took that strength and into a different level, which is cool. And it's also kind of thinking outside the box too, right? So that's really cool. My other question was, what did you feel was your biggest challenge throughout this journey?
Oh, that's a good question that I don't think I've been asked. Biggest challenge, I gotta think about this. I mean, okay, I'm gonna probably go in a couple tangents, but one for sure is this idea of letting go that we've already talked about, and letting go of control of my creations. And so I hired someone to help edit a video course for me, and that was like really hard for me to do. Also, like finding someone to help answer questions, that was really tough because one, I didn't feel like anyone could answer the questions the way that I answer questions, and no one has all the knowledge that I have for my courses. But I found someone, and he's doing better than I could. And so that was like a big challenge. Um, Gosh, not that this whole journey has been smooth, but there hasn't been like a huge challenge. I mean, I never knew how to market. I never knew how to do like advertising or anything like that. So that's a big challenge for a lot of people who are creatives, who know how to create, but then it's like, how do you get this into the world? I think
Mhm.
that's hard. But we have a lot of tools here now. We got social media, we got YouTube, we got all the kind of things to get our work out into the world. I'm gonna have to think about this question a little bit more. Maybe I'll have
Sure.
another answer.
Yeah, no problem. It's definitely, you got to kind of think back to going through everything.
Yeah.
That's good that nothing big stands out to you, but it was like a lot, maybe little things
Yeah.
along the way.
Yeah. I think
Would you?
one thing too
Go
is
ahead.
like just making things like professional and legitimate is hard when you're starting out, especially like with my website, like learning how to create a website and do it the right way with like the SSL certificates and SEO
Mm.
and all these things that you have to do to make it safe so you're not going to get hacked. Like these are things that everyone needs a website nowadays, and it's kind of hard to figure that out on your own.
So whatever you didn't really know how to do, how did you overcome that? Did you just Google it, or were you introduced to someone?
I mean, sometimes I just push it off and hope that my website wasn't going to get like hacked or anything. But I think over time, I did eventually invest time in just like looking it up. And usually it's not that hard. You just have to type it in on YouTube and you could learn anything.
Mhm.
But it does take like just just doing it and sitting down to do it.
Yeah, I think sometimes, I mean, I've experienced that too, where you know you got to do something, but you
Hmm.
don't know how to start or you know what to even do. Um, Depending on what it is, sometimes I would just Google it, ask a question to Google. Google knows all, right?
Yeah.
But other times it's just reaching out to someone that you already know might have the
Hmm.
answer for you, and they can direct you in the right direction, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Was
And
there
that's
ever?
something that's hard for me. So I'm so bad at asking for help. So
Yeah.
that's that's a challenge I consistently have, is like just not only just letting people help me, or, hiring people to do work for me, but just the simple asking people to like help me. I don't know why. I don't know why that is. It's
I
just,
think
I've always been that.
a lot of humans are like that,
Yeah.
asking
Yeah.
for help, right?
Yeah.
It's yeah, I don't
But
know.
I
That would
love
be a
giving
whole
help.
psychology
It's
conversation.
Yeah, it's like weird. I love helping other people, and I think everyone loves helping other people too. So I just gotta ask.
Was there ever a moment that you doubted yourself, or what, like you doubted whether you could achieve your goals?
Um, I mean, there's definitely moments where I feel like, okay, I don't know what the next step is. There's been time where the income from online courses and my business has gone up and down, and that was more in the beginning. I think now I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years now. So, well, like, yeah, 5 years now. So I've seen how things work. I've seen the ups and downs, and not that course sales and my business is always going to be the same, but I think at this point, I can have like I don't know, I feel pretty confident about the future, even if my business completely dried up next month. Like, this is something I used to worry about a lot. I used to worry about, like, oh my God, like, I'm loving what I'm doing, but like, what if people stop buying my courses and I have to go back to a 9 to 5 job?
Hmm.
And there was actually a friend, I'll shout out to Matt Bernstein. I remember having a conversation with him on Facebook, and he was like, well, like, don't worry about that, because like now you have so many skills that if you did go back to another job, or if you just pivoted to another business, you can use those to start another venture. And I think that's true. Like, at this point, create I've I know how to build a website. I know how to create content that people love. I've sold over $1 million worth of courses. And so I can take that, and whether it's for my own business, or like I can go to another job and say I've done these things. I think that, that's better than just having another blip on my resume at some other job.
Absolutely. Yeah, you've taken building a business involves a lot of things, developing yourself, getting to know yourself, building new skills. So you're not the same person who you were when you first started, and
Yeah.
you can take the new you wherever you go next, right?
Yeah.
Very cool. I'm gonna actually see if there are any questions from our viewers right now. Jewel
Cool.
is keeping track of that. Jewel, yell out and say hi. I don't know if you guys can hear her, but
Hi, Jewel.
okay. So let's see here. Cool. We do have one question.
Awesome.
So Phil.
Hey everyone, hey Phil.
Oh,
Hey,
there
Jewel.
she goes. A bit of a delay, but it's all good. So the first question is, what would you say to someone who says, I have a funny accent and I don't know if anyone would want my services?
Mm.
What So I guess maybe coming or helping someone respond to maybe negative feedback, or like what their students are saying.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one, but I feel like, for one, like, I don't want you to think you have a funny accent, because if you grew up speaking another language and you're trying to teach in English, I can't imagine how hard that would be. So props to everyone who does that. And the other thing is that, those if people are leaving you negative reviews just based off of your what they call as a funny accent, it's like, you don't they don't deserve your time or your energy or your thoughts. So stop worrying about them and focus on the content of your course. Because if you're teaching whatever it is, if you're teaching someone how to do something and you can actually help people do that, it doesn't matter what you sound like. It doesn't matter if it's a book. It doesn't matter if it's an online course or a podcast or a blog article. People just want results at the end of the day. And so I would just focus more on the content of your course and improving that as much as it can. And, if you think you have a funny accent, there's ways to, just practice, I think. And people have said I have a funny accent, and I know I come from this and I realize it, and I recognize that I come from this very privileged place to speak English naturally, which is the language of most online courses, and it's the most popular language for online courses. But even people have left reviews saying I have this weird accent, and I just laugh. I mean, it bugged me at the time, but now I'm just like, I don't know what people were thinking, but I think that, you can practice, and you're going to get more natural the more you teach online. So, or the more you just speak in English. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, I really agree. There are there are always going to be people who will pick on certain things and will throw negative comments at you. But if that doesn't matter to you when you're teaching, then just don't even focus on that. Focus on helping the students who do appreciate what you're delivering, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, if it does bother you, then absolutely, there are definitely things that you could do to fix that. We have another question too. So second question is, did you ever have family or friends doubt what you wanted to do by following your passion?
I mean, initially I'll just put her in the spotlight, but my wife, Isabel, back when we were just dating after I graduated, she was very hesitant about me doing freelance work because she grew up in a family where everybody went to college and got a regular job, and that was just reality to her. And so when I left my first job and said, "Oh, I'm just going to try freelancing," that really scared her. And even like after bouncing from that to full-time work, and as I grew my online business, I think it did make her nervous, this idea of me like doing my own business. And it just took time, and now she's totally on board and happy with what I do. But I think she was definitely someone who was just nervous about it. It's funny, like, I don't know about, like, my parents have always kind of let us kids do what we want. So they've always been very supportive of us. And so I think they never really doubted what I was doing. So I think that was very, very nice for me. But at the same time, I feel like family and close friends don't even know what I do. Like, I think a lot of people don't even realize like what I do, or I like try to explain to my grandpa every time what online courses are, and it just doesn't make sense to him. So for like my uncles and aunts and my grandpa, like they just think I stay at home all day long, and some people still think that, like, think like I can just go out whenever I want, and I can. That's the beauty of this, that I can go out, I can get lunch, I can meet up and do whatever whenever I want. But at the same time, I do have like this business that I have to run, and if I wanted to grow, I do spend, and have to spend at least 40 hours a week on it.
Yeah, I was just really laughing because I can relate to the same thing. A lot of my family and close friends, they just know I'm doing something in the online world, but they don't really get to know what. So that's really funny. Yeah, I think, I mean, as long as, so would you say that you believing in what you wanted to create was what really helped you get through, for example, your wife's doubts or being just nervous about what you were doing?
I mean, I think like for me, finances had a lot to do with it. So like seeing that I could make a certain amount of money, like, was the reason why I felt more comfortable with it. just because I grew up in a family that like didn't have a lot of extra money, and I feel like finances were always like, it's always so stressful talking about money, and especially going to school and being in debt after school so much is like, I didn't want to put myself in a place, and I couldn't afford to put myself in a place where I wasn't making enough money to pay off my loans and everything. So I think, to be honest, for me, it's always, that's kind of has always been a reason why I felt comfortable doing this. Like once I saw that I was making a certain amount of money every month, whether it was with my wedding videography business or my own freelance or with online courses, that has helped me. And, you know, if it dries up and I'm making not, if I'm not making any money with my online courses in a few months, then, you know, it's time to change or pivot or something. I don't think just because I'm passionate about it will keep me going at least at the rate that I'm going right now. There has to be some sort of return on investment.
Right. So again, it comes back to that money that comes in is the feedback again, right? It's like seeing, like, money is a form of feedback. Whatever people are buying, they're telling you, hey, this is something that I'm interested in and I want more of. So the fact that you had that was like a win, right? And provided evidence for you to keep going.
Yeah, totally. And again, it's not just about money, and it's not just about making more money, but we all need a certain level of income to survive. And I live in Southern California, which I've chosen to live here, which there's many less expensive places to live where I wouldn't have to make as much. But because I've chosen to live here, and because I've made the decision to buy a house and have a mortgage, you know, my wife and I have to make a certain amount. So as long as we're making that amount, then, you know, I feel pretty comfortable and confident.
Cool. Awesome. I have another question for you that coming in from the comments. How do you deal with the haters? Do you respond to them?
So the perfect thing now is that I have this TA for my classes who responds to all my reviews for me, and he gets to just kind of respond to everyone for me, and I don't have to look at all of the hate, because with everything online, you're going to get the trolls who leave bad reviews or leave mean YouTube comments. And I've just realized that I can't please everyone, and I try not to dwell on the haters and what they say. I mean, for example, I've had classes where I get people saying, oh, I love the bite-sized chunk videos where you focus on a specific task or tip. And then the same class has people saying, oh, your videos are terrible. They need to be longer. Like, you don't go into enough depth. And so I just quickly realized that I can't please everyone. I try to do that, but same with like my videos, especially with personal finance related videos on YouTube. There are people coming from all walks of life who have preconceptions that, you know, that the world is ending or that I can do anything. And if you come from those different perspectives, you're going to leave comments differently on a video that's telling you that you can retire early and here's how to do it. So I guess like I just realized that I can't please everyone, and I do look at my comments and I do look at my reviews, but and I use them to improve, and I try to respond. And people are genuine. If people are genuine about leaving me criticism on my courses and leave me notes on how to improve, I'll take that and I'll try to make my course better. But just the haters, I'll try to ignore.
Cool. Awesome. Good answer. Well, we're coming up to the end of our hour here. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk more about Video School Online. So can you tell us who that's for, what it is, and where people can find out more about you?
Yeah, Video School Online this is the perfect time to talk about this, because I've literally redesigned my entire web presence the past like few weeks. And so videoschoolonline.com started as a place for me to teach others how to make better videos. And it's expanded to include photographers and designers and motion graphics artists. And then at a point, it was going towards this direction of online business and and all that kind of marketing stuff. But right now it's a place for people who want to become better creators, and it's mostly for video producers and photographers. So you can go to videoschoolonline.com, find the courses that I have. You can read articles and see tutorials that I put out for free. All of that stuff is also on my YouTube channel, Video School Online. So I'm posting weekly videos, and I'm really at this point where I'm more focused on creating high quality content for that audience. And then I have this whole other market or audience, which is online teachers. And ever since I started teaching online and had initial success, even back in 2013, people were asking me how I did it. And so since then, I've been teaching other people how to do it. And that has kind of separated itself into my other brand, which is onlinecoursemasters.com. And I have the podcast for that. And so we do weekly episodes where I interview online course creators who from all walks of life at all levels of income, from making the first $100 to making $200,000 a year. We interview them and get, in their minds and see what they're doing. And you can get more resources at onlinecoursemasters.com for that. So yeah, those are my two places for.
Very cool. We'll make sure that those links are down in the description below this video so you guys can check that out. So, whether you're thinking of starting an online course, or whether you're wanting to do an artistic video production, or just maybe start a YouTube channel, like all kinds of video stuff, be sure to check that out. Cool,
Definitely.
Phil. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was really fun to be here, and I can't wait to see both you and Jewel at Udemy Live in July, and we'll bump into each other online in the future. And yeah, if anyone has any questions about anything, you can find me online. Search for Phil Ebiner and find me on Google.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, thank you so much, Phil. And thank you to our viewers for tuning in with us. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.